When the steward saw what was done, he waxed mad with rage, and as Little John stooped to look within the pantry, he seized him from behind by the nape of the neck, pinching him sorely and smiting him over the head with his keys till the yeoman's ears rang again. At this Little John turned upon the steward and smote him such a buffet that the fat man fell to the floor and lay there as though he would never move again. "There," quoth Little John, "think well of that stroke and never keep a good breakfast from a hungry man again." So saying, he crept into the pantry and looked about him to see if he could find something to appease his hunger. He saw a great virgin pastry and 2 roasted capons, beside which was a platter of plover's eggs. Moreover, there was a flask of sack and 1 of canary, a sweet sight to a hungry man. These he took down from the shelves and placed upon a sideboard, and prepared himself to make himself merry. Now the cook in the kitchen across the country yard heard the loud talking between Little John and the steward, and also the blow that Little John struck to the other. So he came running across the court and up the stairway to where the steward pantry was, bearing in his hands the spit with the roast still upon it. Meanwhile the steward had gathered his wits about him and risen to his feet, so that when the cook came to the steward's pantry, he saw him glowering through the broken door at Little John, who was making ready for a good repast, as one dog glowers at another that has a bone. When the steward saw the cook, he came to him, and putting one arm over his shoulder, "Alas, sweet friend," quoth he, for the cook was a tall, stout man, "seest thou what that wild knave, Reynold Greenleaf, hath done? He hath it broken into upon our master's goods, and hath it smithen me a buffet upon the ear, so that I thought I was dead. Good cook, I love thee well, and thou shalt have a good pottle of our master's best wine every day, for thou art an old and faithful servant. Also, good cook, I have 10 shillings that I mean to give you as a gift for thee. But havest thou not to see a vile upstart like this Reynold Greenleaf, taking it upon him so bravely?" "Ay, marry, that I do," quoth the cook boldly, for he liked the steward because of his talk of the wine and of the 10 shillings. "Get thee gone straightway to thy room, and I will bring out this knave by his ears." So saying, he laid aside his split and drew the sword that hung by his side. Thereupon the steward left as quickly as he could, for he hated the sight of a naked steer. Then the cook walked straightway to the broken pantry door, through which he saw Little John sucking a napkin beneath his chin and preparing to make himself merry. "Why, how now, Greenleaf?" said the cook. "Thou art no better than a thief, I vow. Come thou straight forth, man. I will carve thee as I would carve a sucking pig. Nay, good cook, bear thou thyself more seemingly, or else I will come forth to thy dole. At most times I am a yearling lamb, but when one cometh beneath me and my meat, I am a rolling lion, as it were." "Lion or not lion," quoth the valorous cook, "come thou straight forth, else thou art a coward heart as well as a knavish thief." "Ah," cried Little John, coward's name have I never heard. So look to thyself, good cook, for I cometh forth straight, the roaring lion I did speak of but now. Then he, too, drew his sword, and came out of the pantry. Then, putting themselves into position, they came slowly together, with grim and angry looks. But suddenly Little John looketh his point. Hold, good cook, he said. Now I be thinking me, it will be ill for us to fight with good Victorious standing so nigh, and such a feast as would benefit two stout fellows such as we were. Marry, good friend, I think we should enjoy this fair feast ere we fight. What sayest thou, jolly cook? At this speech the cook looked up and down, stretching his neck in doubt, for he loved good feasting. At least he drew a long breath and said to Little John, Well, good friend, I like thy plan right well. So, pretty boy, say I, let us feast with all heart, for one of us may sup in paradise before nightfall. So each thrust their sword back into the scabbard and entered the pantry. Then, after they had seated themselves, Little John drew his dagger and thrust into the pie. A hungry man must be fed, quoth he. So, sweet cook, I help myself without leave. But the cook did not lag far behind, for straightway his hands also were deeply tossed within the good pastry. After this neither of them spoke further, but used their teeth to better purpose. But though neither spoke, they looked at one another, each thinking within himself that he had never seen a more lusty fellow than this one across the broad. At last, after a long time had passed, the cook drew a full, deep breath, as though of much regret, and whipped his hands upon the napkin, for he could eat no more. Little John also had enough, for he pushed the pastry aside, as though he would say, I want thee by me no more, good friend. Then he took the pottle of sack and said, Now, good fellow, I swear by all this bright, that thou art the stoutest companion at eating that I have ever had. Lo, I drink to thy health. So saying, he clapped the flask to his lips and cast his eyes aloft, while the good wine flowed into his throat. Then he passed the bottle to the cook, who also said, Lo, I drink to thy health, sweet fellow. Nor was he behind Little John in drinking and any more than at eating. No, quoth Little John, thy voice is right round and sweet, jolly lad. I doubt not thou canst sing a ballad most busily, canst thou not? Truly, I have told one now and then, quoth the cook, yet I would not sing alone. Nay, truly, said Little John, that were but ill custody. Striking up thy ditty, and I will afterwards sing one to match it, if I can. So be it, pretty boy, quoth the cook. And hast thou ere heard the song of the deserted sharpest dress? Truly, I know not, answered Little John. But sing thou and let me hear. Then the cook took another draught from the bottle, and clearing his throat, he sang right sweetly the song of a deserted shepherdess. In Lenin time, when leaves waxed green, and pretty birds began to mate, then lark cloves sing, and truss I ween, and stroke dove cothered soon and late. Fair Philip sat beside a stone, and thus I heard her make her moan. Oh, willow, 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 I take me for thy branches fair, and thine a wreath to deck my hair. Then thrush taken him a she, the robin too, and eke the dove, My robin-hearted dressed me, and left me for another love. So here my broke aside all alone, I sit me down and make my moan. A willow, 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 I take me off thy branches fair, and twine a wreath to deck my hair. But nearer came hearing from the sea, but good as he were in the teed. Young Cordon came o'er the lea, and set my him Phillips down beside. So presently she changed her tone, and gang to chase her from her moan. A willow, 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 test mayest e'en keep thy garlands fair, I want them not to deck my hair. No, by my faith, cried Little John, that same is a right good song, and have it thou in it also. Glad I am like it is, sweet lad, said the cook, no singest thou one also, for nearer should a man be merry alone, or sing a lister low. Then I will sing thee a song for a right good knight of Arthur's court, and how he curd his heart without running up on the darters again, as did thy Phillips, for I wot she did not cur one smart by giving herself another. So listen thou while I'll sing. The Good Knight and his Love. When Arthur king did rule his land, a goody king was he, and had he of stout knights a band of merry company. Along them all, both great and small, a good stout king was there, a lusty child and eke a tall, that loved a lady fair. But nought would she to do with he, but turned her face away. So get he gone to fair country, and left the lady gay. There all alone he made his moan, and eke did sob and sigh, and wept till it would move a stone, and he was like to die. But still his heart did feel the smart, and eke the dear distress, and rather grew his pain more sharp, as grew his body less. Then gaed he back when he was good sack, and merry came penny, and soon did cease to cry alack, when blithe and gay was he. From which I hold and feel full bold to say and eke believe, that Jim the belly got not cold, and heart will cease to grieve. No, by my faith, cried the cook, as he rattled the bottle against the sideboard. I like the same song heartily, and eke the motive of it, with which liketh like a sweet kernel in a hazelnut. No, thou art a man of a sure opinion, quoth Little John, and I love thee truly as thou wert my brother. And I love thee too, but the day darveth on, and I have my cooking to do ere our master cameth home. So let us e'en go and settle his brave fight, we have it in hand. Ay, marry, quoth Little John, and that is speedily. Neither have I been more lodged in fighting than in eating and drinking. So come thou straight forth into the passageway, where there is a good room to swing a sword, and I will try to serve thee. Then they both stepped forth into the broad passage that led to the steward's pantry, when each man drew his sword again, and without more ado fell upon the other as though he would heave a fellow limb from limb. Then their sword crashed upon one another with great din, and sparks flew from each blow in showers. So they fought up and down the hall for 1 hour and more, neither striking the other a blow, though they strove their best to do so, for both were skilful at the fence. But nothing came of all their labour. Ever and anon they rested, panting. Then, after getting their wind at it, they would go again more forcefully than ever. At last, Little John cried aloud, "Hold, good cook!" Thereupon each rested upon his sword painting. "Now will I make my vow," quoth Little John. "Thou art the very best swordman that ever my eyes beheld. Truly I have thought to crave thee ere now, and I had thought to do the same by thee," quoth the cook, "but I have missed the mark somehow.